Good morning, Potomac third grade. It's great to be back here with you. Miss Jones here to continue with our read aloud for today. Of course, we're still reading Runaway Ralph by Beverly Cleary. Few things to say before we get started. First of all, I hope everybody had a great Easter last weekend. I know it was a little different. Probably couldn't get together with family and friends like you may usually do, but I hope you guys, your family stayed safe and you had a good time on Easter. We miss you, and we hope that you're doing really well. I hope you're finding creative things to do at home, able to get outside. It's been pretty nice. And I hope that you're continuing to read at home and practice all your skills. Parents, just so you know, a new packet was released this week on Tuesday. Well, it was released on Monday, but pickup was Tuesday. For math and English, for math and reading. So if you have any questions about those materials, please feel free to email your teachers. But hopefully you guys have those or can print those out and get started on those because they're really valuable skills there. Just a reminder that today, I know several classes, several homerooms are doing Google Meetings today, Google Hangouts, and others tomorrow. So please try to participate in that. Log on, click the link in your email to join the meeting. That'll be a lot of fun. We look forward to seeing you that way, for those of you doing that. Also, I want to give a few shout outs to some of my students, particularly my math students who have been getting on the computer this past week and practicing your math skills. I want to give a shout out. First of all, in IXL, my class this school year has answered 36,474 math problems. So way to go, guys. That's a lot. That's pretty awesome. Also want to give a shout out to Kendall, Tanner, McKenna, Preston, Sydney, and Luke, who got on IXL this past week, and to Luke and Milo, who got on extra math. So thank you guys for getting on and practicing. And I hope that many of you guys, other students, will get on in the upcoming week or weeks. I'll keep checking in and checking your progress. So we'll go ahead and get started with our read aloud. We're starting with chapter 8. First, I just want to say that the third grade team is reading this book, Runaway Ralph by Beverly Cleary, with special permission from Scholastic Publishing Company, who is the publisher for the book. So yesterday, Mr. Nichols read, finished up chapter 7, which was called The Escape. And in that chapter, Ralph had finally gained up the courage to talk to Garf because he was so hungry. Remember, Garf had been avoiding the craft room so he wouldn't be associated with that missing watch, or people wouldn't think that he's in there doing anything, since some people were blaming him for the stolen watch. So Ralph finally talked to Garf, tried to get Garf to let him out so that he could return home. Remember, Ralph is finally realizing that it wasn't such a great idea to run away from home, but Garf does not let him out. And then also, Ralph does end up being able to get out of his cage when Katso comes in, and Ralph is able to tease him to the point where he knocks Ralph's cage off the shelf, and then Ralph makes an escape. So that's kind of where we left off, that Ralph has gotten out of his cage and is kind of dreaming or thinking of being able to get back to Mountain View Inn, get his motorcycle back from Garf and head back to Mountain View Inn. So we're going to go ahead and continue on with chapter 8. Chapter 8 is called Ralph Strikes a Bargain. So who do you think Ralph is going to strike a bargain with? A bargain is like a deal. He's going to make a deal with somebody. A bargain is a deal. So Ralph strikes a bargain, chapter 8. Ooh, before I begin, you know what I forgot was the joke of the day. So let's do that before we start. I'm sorry about that. That was my first thing and I forgot it. So joke of the day today is pretty funny. It is, why is the Easter Bunny so upset? Why is he upset? Anybody? because he was having a bad hair day. As you know, I'm going to put some words up here. As you know, hair and hair, H-A-R-E and H-A-I-R, are homophones. They have two meanings. So H-A-R-E means a rabbit. So he was having a bad hair day, the Easter Bunny. Or H-A-I-R, like the hair on your head. So that's kind of a play on words with our homophones. Now we're going to get to Chapter 8. Okay, Chapter 8, Ralph Strikes a Bargain. Lana was the one who discovered that Ralph was missing. The morning after Ralph's escape, she came running ahead of Aunt Jill to the craft shop. She stopped short when she looked through the screen door and saw the litter of nails, seeds, and plastic strewn about the work table and on the floor. Aunt Jill! Aunt Jill! She shrieked, even though Aunt Jill was directly behind her. Burglars have been here, and somebody stole Garth's mouse. Ralph crouched out of sight behind a fluff of dust in the angle where the brace joined the studding. He heard campers coming. So here's Ralph up here, if you can see that. He's kind of up in the wall, in the corner of the wall, on the wooden beam, kind of hiding out of the way. He heard campers coming. Garth, Garth, called Lana. Your mouse is gone. Somebody stole your mouse. Hey, look at the mess, said Pete. The mouse cage is all bent, observed Garth. A thief wouldn't have to bend the cage to open it. First a watch, now a mouse, said another camper. A thief in our midst, cried Lana, eager for excitement and mystery. All right, boys and girls, let's pick up the nails and seeds and roll up the plastic. Aunt Jill's voice was calm. This crisis was not the first she had met at Happy Acres, nor would it be the last. Then Ralph heard Garth's voice saying, Look at that hole in the screen door. It's big enough for the cat to squeeze through. Good thinking, Garth, said Ralph to himself. He had picked up this phrase from the many teachers who had stayed at the Mountain View Inn while on their summer vacations. I'll bet Catso got my mouse, said Garth, adding sadly. And he was such a good mouse, too. Ralph could not help being pleased by this compliment, and a little sad, too. Of course he was a good mouse. He had known that fact all along, but hearing himself spoken of in the past made him feel that the world would have been a sadder place without him. Garth, you're a good detective, said Aunt Jill. Catso must be the guilty one. Aunt Jill, you don't think that Catso ate the mouse, do you? Lana was awed by the enormity of such a crime. I hope not, for Garth's sake, said Aunt Jill. What about my sake, thought Ralph indignantly. We'd better look around, said Aunt Jill. Perhaps the mouse is hiding someplace. So I want to look at this word for a second. We just had a word. It said, what about my sake, thought Ralph indignantly. So let's look at the word indignant. We know that the word indignantly, we just take the word indignant and we add an ly suffix, meaning in a certain way. So the ly is a suffix. So we have this word indignantly. So if Ralph says in an indignant way, what about my sake? Okay, what does the word indignant mean? How would Ralph be saying, what about my sake? Thought Ralph indignantly. And to be indignant means that you're resentful, you're angry, you're mad. So he's saying it in a way like, what about me? And he's kind of mad that they're not thinking about him. So indignant means angry. And when you add the ly, it means in that way. So in an angry way. He thought in an angry way. We'd better look around, said Aunt Jill. Perhaps the mouse is hiding someplace. Instantly, a mouse hunt was organized. Butterfly nets were seized, jars and boxes moved, craft materials lifted. Here, Mousie, Mousie, called Lana. Here, Mousie, Mousie. As if I would come running, thought Ralph, huddled behind a dusty cobweb in the dark shadows. still up in that wooden brace. "I guess he's gone," said Garf at last. "The first and probably the last mouse I'll ever have." "Garf, I'm putting you in charge of repairing the hole," said Aunt Jill. "Get a piece of screen and make some wire from Uncle Steve, and we'll make sure Catso won't come in here again. We wouldn't want him to annoy Chum." At that point, the fur along Ralph's spine began to tingle. "There's Catso now," cried Lana. Ralph felt the slam of the screen door jar the building as Lana ran out. "Bad cat, Catso, bad cat," he heard her shout. The scolding did Ralph's heart good. Later that morning, after his riding lesson, Garf returned with a piece of screen and some wire to repair the hole. His work was frequently interrupted as campers left the craft shop and drifted off to other activities. When Aunt Jill left, Ralph came down from his hiding place in a series of leaps. Through the screen door, he watched Garf sitting on the step, weaving the wire patch to the screen with a piece of thin wire. Before he said, "Say, Garf, about my motorcycle." Startled, Garf looked up from his work. "You're alive?" His obvious pleasure was most gratifying to Ralph. "I thought Catso got you." "How come you believed Catso got me when you wouldn't believe that Catso stole the watch?" demanded Ralph. "I can run and jump, you know. A watch can't." "It just isn't logical for a cat to steal a watch," Garf insisted. "If I show you where the watch is, will you believe me?" asked Ralph. With a look of interest, Garf sat back on his heels. "However," he said, "I don't want to have anything to do with that watch. I don't want to be seen near it, or people will start saying I took it again. Most everyone's forgotten about it, and I want to keep it that way." "You don't have to go near it," said Ralph. "Just watch me." Flattening himself, he squeezed under the screen door, jumped down the steps, and ran out into the bamboo leaves. Suddenly, all bamboo leaves looked alike. Which leaf was hiding the watch? Ralph did not know. He looked under one leaf and then the next. He heard Garf mutter, "Huh," and returned to his work. Over by one of the lodges, Lana shouted, "Bad cat, bad cat." Ralph pushed some leaves aside and crawled under others. Where was that watch anyway? There was no telling how many leaves had fallen since Catso had dropped the watch. Ralph crawled deeper and deeper into the leaves and was finally rewarded by the touch of metal against his paw. Next, Ralph grasped the buckle on the leather strap and tugged. The watch was heavier than he expected, but it slid across the smooth inside surface of the leaf. Ralph waded up through the leaves, pulling with all his strength, and at last emerged, dragging the watch behind him. The word emerged means to come out, to enter. "See," he said, "I told you I knew where it was." "Well, what do you know?" Garf sat down on the step to the craft shop. "You really did. How did the watch get there?" "I told you," Ralph said impatiently. "Catso picked it up in his mouth, carried it out here, batted it around a while, and finally dropped it where it slid under a leaf." "You know, I believe you're telling the truth," said Garf, with wonder in his voice. "Of course I'm telling the truth," Ralph was indignant. "But what good does it do me?" asked Garf. "You know I can't return it. And if I said Catso stole it, people would laugh." This moment was the one Ralph had been waiting for. First, he pulled some bamboo leaves over the watch to hide it before he faced Garf. "All right, let's talk business," he said. "I return the watch and clear your name. You give me back my motorcycle." From the trampoline, Ralph heard Lana say as she bounced, "Bad dog, Sam. You're supposed to be a watchdog." She stopped bouncing and began to scold Sam. "You're a watchdog. Why didn't you watch what Catso was doing? Why did you let Catso get that poor little mouse?" Garf thought a while before he said, "Why do you want the motorcycle? The ground is pretty uneven around here. Why do you want it? Countered Ralph. You're too big to ride it. It's mouse-sized, not boy-sized. Well, I want it because I like to think about motorcycles, said Garth. I push it back and forth and think about riding a motorcycle when I grow up. Well, I want it to ride, said Ralph. Now, back to the Mountain View Inn. I want to go home. The Mountain View Inn. Garth was incredulous. That's over a mile away. You will never make it. Ralph recalled the long and thrilling downhill ride. He remembered how he'd thought at that time that he would never be able to go back up the mountain road. Maybe you're right, he admitted. Of course you wouldn't, said Garth. He pulled the motorcycle out of his pocket and ran a finger over the front tire. For one thing, your tires would never stand the trip. They're wearing smooth. There is still a lot of mileage left in them if you ride on floors, but they won't hold up on the highway. Oh, Ralph had not considered the possibility of his tires wearing out. And another thing, said Garth, you'd probably get laryngitis from making a motorcycle noise before you were halfway there. Ralph was utterly dejected. I suppose you're right. Bad Sam, scolded Lana from the trampoline. Ralph ducked under a leaf while some campers walked past. What am I going to do? He asked pitifully as he emerged. I can't stay here with the cats. I'm a hotel mouse. I'm not used to living on weed seeds out in the cold. When winter comes, I'll probably just die if the cats don't get me first. I've got to try to make it back to the hotel. You should have thought about things like that before you ran away, chided Garth. I should, but I didn't, said Ralph coldly. You don't have to sound like a grown-up. Sorry, apologized Garth. The dinner bell rang and the campers began to run toward the dining hall. Catso, avoiding Lana with a haunted look on his furry face, darted from one hiding place to the next on his way to the kitchen door. Poor old Sam, so conscientious and anxious to please, padded dejectedly across the grass with his tail drooping. He had failed in his duty. So it says, poor old Sam, so conscientious and anxious to please. So we've got this word conscientious. Conscientious. So conscientious, and our other word we looked at today, indignantly. We could find, where do we find the meaning of words? In a dictionary, right? I grabbed my daughter's dictionary here to look these words up. So when I looked up the word conscientious, I'm going to look it up right now in front of you to show you even teachers can use a dictionary, all adults. Everybody has to use the dictionary for every now and then. So the word conscience is a sense of moral goodness, right? Your conscience helps you to do good things. So conscientious means thoughtful, careful, influenced by your good conscience. So when we say that that Sam, poor old Sam, so conscientious and anxious to please, so he wants to do well. He tries really hard. He's thoughtful and careful in the things he does. He's supposed to be the watchdog. So he feels like he's failed in his duty by letting Catso get Ralph, because everybody thinks that Catso got Ralph. Ralph did not have much time. Do we have an agreement or don't we? He demanded the boy. I have a better idea, said Garth. Listen to this deal. I'll take you back to the hotel myself when my family comes to get me. They'll be spending the night there before they come to pick me up the day after tomorrow. The camp doesn't serve us lunch on the day we leave, so I know we'll stop at the inn for lunch before we start for home. It's the only place around here. I could easily take you along in my pocket. This offer was more than Ralph had hoped for. But the motorcycle, he persisted. If I return the watch, will you give it back? Ralph felt he would rather perish at Happy Acres Camp than return to the hotel without his motorcycle. How will you return it? Garth was curious. You couldn't get the watch back up on the shelf in the craft shop or up on a desk in the office. I didn't say where I'd return it, answered Ralph. I said I would return it. I'll leave it somewhere where Karen is sure to find it. Garth thought this plan over. But people might think I left it there. Ralph had an answer. Not if I leave it someplace where the boys can't go. You mean the girls' bathroom? Asked Garth, visibly impressed by Ralph's idea. Maybe, said Ralph carelessly. Or Karen's lodge, or the girls' dressing room by the swimming pool. You better make up your mind or you'll be late for lunch. It's a deal, said Garth suddenly. You return the watch by tomorrow, and I'll give you back your motorcycle. The next day I'll take you to the inn. But remember, no watch, no motorcycle. It's a deal, agreed Ralph. And you might throw in a peanut butter and jelly sandwich for my dinner. Would you care to shake on it? Asked Garth. Ralph extended his paw, which Garth took gently between his thumb and forefinger. They shook. I'll meet you by the bamboo tomorrow morning after breakfast, said Garth, and he ran off toward the dining hall. If you're not there, I'll come back later. I hope I'll be there, thought Ralph, who knew that a night of peril lay ahead of him. Peril means danger. A peanut butter and jelly sandwich would help to give him strength and courage. Over in the dining hall, the campers began to sing. No, you can't get to heaven on roller skates, 'cause you roll right past those pearly gates. No, you can't get to heaven with a nickel in your jeans, 'cause the Lord don't allow no slot machines. And that's the end of chapter 8. Chapter 9 is called A Dangerous Plan. So I want you to think about, remember, chapter 8 was called Ralph Strikes a Bargain. He made a deal. And who did he make a deal with? He made a deal with Garth, right? He made this deal that he's going to return the watch for Garth so that nobody will think he took it anymore, even though he didn't to begin with. And in return, he's going to take Ralph back to Mountain View Inn and give him back his motorcycle. So I want you to think about that deal for a minute. And I want you to think, do you think that Ralph and Garth's deal is going to work? Do you think it's going to go off without a hitch? Or do you think there'll be some problems? So for your activity today, that's what I want you to write about. Will Ralph and Garth's deal go through? Will it work out? Will he get back to the Mountain View Inn? Or will there be some other problem? Chapter 9, the last chapter of the book, remember, is called A Dangerous Plan. So maybe you can think about that as you're writing your answer to my question. Do you think Ralph and Garth's plan will work? All right, guys, you have a great day, and I'll see you next time. Bye.